I'm 92 years old as I sit here saying this. And the truth is, I understood the reason for my loneliness only when I was already 65. Not when I was young. Not when I still had energy to change things easily. I understood it when most of my life was already behind me. Once I saw it clearly, I couldn't unsee it. I'm not telling this because I want sympathy. I'm telling it because there's a strange quiet that comes with old age. And inside that quiet, memories speak louder than they ever did when life was busy. At my age, the future is short and the past is long. You stop planning much. You mostly remember. And sometimes, you finally understand. People assume loneliness looks a certain way. They imagine someone sitting alone in a small room. No phone calls. No visitors. That kind of loneliness exists, of course. But that's not the one that stayed with me the longest. The kind that followed me most of my life was the kind you feel while sitting next to someone. While laughing at a table. While being needed. While being busy. While being surrounded. That kind is harder to explain. And harder to admit. These days, my mornings are slow. I wake up early, not because I want to, but because my body does it on its own now. The house is quiet, not a peaceful quiet, just an empty one. I make coffee the same way I have for decades, even though there's no one else to pour a second cup for it. I sit by the window and watch the light change. I think about how many mornings I rush through without noticing any of this. At 92, death doesn't feel dramatic, it feels practical. You think about it the way you think about whether it's coming. You don't know exactly when, and there's nothing you can do about it. What surprises you is not the fear of dying, but the regret about how much of yourself you gave away to things that never truly gave anything back. I'm telling this for whoever's listening, not to teach, not to warn, just to tell the truth while I still can. When I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, I didn't think of myself as lonely. I was too busy for that word. I had work, responsibilities, plans. I had people around me most of the time, co-workers, friends, family gatherings, noise, movement, distraction. I grew up believing that being needed was the same as being connected. If someone depended on you, that meant you mattered. If your schedule was full, your life was full. That's what I thought. And no one ever corrected me, because from the outside it looked like I was doing just fine. In my late 20s, I worked long hours. Not because anyone forced me to, but because it felt right, productive, respectable. When I came home tired, I told myself that was the price of building a good life. I didn't notice how often conversations were cut short because I needed to rest. I didn't notice how often I said, "We'll talk later," or "this weekend," or "after things calm down." They almost never did. I remember sitting at dinner tables and listening more than speaking. Not because I was shy, but because I felt slightly out of place in my own life. Everyone else seemed emotionally fluent. They shared stories, complaints, dreams. I shared updates, facts, schedules, plans. I told myself that was maturity. In my 30s, I believed loneliness was something that happened to people who failed relationships, failed careers, failed to build something. I didn't think it applied to me. I was succeeding, by most measures. So when I felt a dull emptiness, not sharp pain, just a constant low hum, I assumed it was normal, something adults didn't talk about. I'm married, I had children, I showed up physically, I paid attention to logistics, I was present in the ways it could be measured, school fees paid on time, repairs done quickly, problems handled efficiently, but I didn't know how to sit with feelings, mine or anyone else's. I thought providing was the same as participating. I thought consistency was the same as closeness. I didn't understand that you can share a house with someone and still never really meet them. The loneliness didn't arrive suddenly. It accumulated, quietly, like dust in corners you stop checking. There were missed moments I didn't register as losses at the time. A conversation that could have gone deeper but didn't. A question I didn't ask because it felt inconvenient. A silence I let stretch instead of filling with honesty. I remember my wife once asking me, late at night, what I was thinking about. I told her, truthfully, that I was tired. What I didn't say was that I felt strangely far away from my own life. I didn't have the language for it then, so I stayed quiet, and the moment passed. I told myself I was protecting peace. What I was really doing was avoiding vulnerability. My children grew up seeing me as reliable, not expressive, stable, not open. They came to me for solutions, not comfort. That wasn't their fault, it was the role I trained them to give me. By my 40s, the loneliness had settled into something familiar. It didn't hurt sharply anymore. It was like background noise you forget is there until everything else goes quiet. I filled my days with routines. Wake up, commute, work, eat, sleep, repeat. Routines are useful. They keep life running. But they can also hide things from you. They can make emptiness feel like order. I delayed conversations because there was always a reason. Stress, timing, fatigue. I believed there would be a better moment later, a calmer season, a version of life where everything slowed down enough for honesty. That season never arrived. The cost of that delay wasn't obvious at first. It showed up in small ways. Fewer shared jokes, longer silences, a sense that I was observing my own life instead of inhabiting it. I remember attending events and feeling like I was slightly behind glass, present, but not fully inside. People laughed, I smiled, but something in me remained untouched. At 65, everything finally slowed down enough for me to see it clearly. Retirement does that to you. It removes the noise that kept you from hearing yourself. When I stopped working, I expected relief, rest, a chance to enjoy what I had built. Instead, I felt exposed. Without schedules and demands, there was nothing buffering me from myself anymore. That's when the loneliness became undeniable. Not because people vanished overnight, but because I realized how few emotional connections I had actually built. The turning point came quietly. No dramatic event. No shouting. No collapse. Just a realization one afternoon while sitting alone in the living room. I had the television on, but I wasn't watching. I looked around the room, the furniture we'd owned for years, the photos on the shelves, and I realized how little of myself was actually in any of it. I'd built a life that functioned well but felt hollow. I thought about the people I could call, and then I thought about what I would actually say to them. And that's when it hit me. I had spent decades being useful instead of being known. That realization landed heavily, not violently, just deeply, like a weight you hadn't noticed until it settled. Soon after that, my wife became ill. Not suddenly, but steadily. The kind of illness that stretches time and forces conversations you've avoided. We talked more then than we had in years. But even then, there were things we never said. Habits are hard to break late in life. We circled truths without naming them. When she passed, a new kind of loneliness arrived. It was quieter, but heavier. Grief is loud at first. Loneliness is what stays. What can't be fixed now is not just her absence. It's the version of us we never fully allowed to exist. The conversations postponed until there was no time left. The emotional risks I avoided because they felt uncomfortable. I can't go back and be braver. I can't return to moments where a different choice would have changed everything. Time doesn't work that way. That's the hardest part to accept at this age. Not that mistakes were made, everyone makes them, but that some realizations arrive after the window for change is closed. I don't hate my life. I'm grateful for many things. But gratitude and sorrow can exist together. They often do. These days I speak more honestly than I ever did before. Not because it fixes the past, but because silence feels heavier now. I talk to my children differently. I tell them when I miss them, when I'm proud, when I feel afraid. Sometimes they seem surprised, sometimes uncomfortable. That's okay. I was uncomfortable too, once, for a long time. If you're listening to this and any of it feels familiar, I don't have instructions for you. I only have this truth. Loneliness isn't always about being alone. Sometimes it's about being unseen even by yourself. I wish I had known that earlier. I wish I had understood that presence matters more than performance. That connection requires risk. That waiting for the perfect moment is often just another way of avoiding now. I'm not asking you to change anything. I'm just telling you what I learned when it was already late. My time is quieter now, shorter. I don't know how much is left, but I know this understanding arrived even if it came late. And sometimes that has to be enough. If this meant something to you, you can sit with it. You don't have to do anything else. I'll be here, in this chair, watching the light move across the room. Finally, honest with myself, even if it took most of a lifetime to get here.